Alright, hello and welcome to a very special video of mine. This is Dygeron92, your host, and I'm going to be playing, something called the beta version of Duke Nukem 3D. And, as you can tell, it's not really well built, it's actually pretty glitchy. I tried to set it on high-res mode, 640 by 480. Which was considered high res by the time this was made, 1994, I believe. But the game will not have it. The game will simply not have it. The game looks awful in that resolution anyways, because the game did not really have the means to scale it up that high. I mean, it's like Quake. All it really does is center it in, well, at least Quake centered their HUD, but in this game it doesn't even try to do that. You can easily tell that this game is unfinished. And, this game also doesn't have... Well, this game is really hard to get running most of the time. It's really... the game doesn't have sound whenever you try to start, whenever it crashes. So you have to go into the setup again. Or actually, you have to boot out of DOSBox and then boot back into DOSBox in order to get sound. But here we go. This is a demo of the game. I think there are about 3 demos. This is the first one. This takes place on, Episode 1, Level 6. As in, this game does feature this game does have some features that are eventually made into the build engine, such as underwater sections and, rotating sectors and palette effects. Those things are relatively new back in 1994, because back then, all you really had... The only games engines of this kind were the Doom engine, and that's about it. Doom engine didn't have any palette effects. They did add them later with source ports, but this is before Doom released the source code. This was really revolutionary back then. I don't understand what the person was doing here. The person shooting in the water, trying to demonstrate that the bullets can actually, or the projectiles can actually go underwater, but you can't really see them, so it's not really conclusive. There are also some issues with some of the water effects, like right there. The person's trying to get out of the water, but he just keeps getting into the he just keeps going back down because the level designer didn't use water sector effectors properly, so he ended up dunking his head back into and out of the water, and it was rather funny looking. Alright, getting Lameduke to run is not really that hard when you have DOSBox. But you will encounter some problems, like with the 640 by 480 resolution. I don't have no computer, so it's really DOSBox is the only option for me. Here's another map from the demo. It's trying to demonstrate the game is trying to demonstrate Duke Nukem as some sort of action hero, but I'm guessing the developers thought this was cool. And I'm pretty sure it was, because of the destructible environments. The destructible environments was a new thing in build, because of the way the build is pretty much set up. You fire an explosive at it and it'll move some sectors around, and it'll simulate the building being destroyed, or a piece of geometry being destroyed, and it actually did sell the explosion really well. Well, okay, they got really nilly with it, because you can blow entire buildings up with the rocket launcher, or even good sections of the building, really. But now it's time for me to start the game. The episode levels are amazing. I'll describe them later. Now, here's another huge flaw I discovered with the game. The game does not have a maximum frame rate, so it'll run pretty much indiscriminately, and the speed of the game will depend directly on the processor speed. So, so suddenly my gun transforms into a chain gun, and I'm sorry, it's really funny to see a gun go like 1 million rounds per minute. Well, not really 1 million miles per minute, 1 million per second. It's the game. If you run this game without a frame rate cap, it runs like it's on speed. So you're gonna have to find a way to capture frame rate so it's somewhat playable, and the game pretty much falls apart completely when you're playing at such a high frame rate. It doesn't really... Drawing routines doesn't even compensate for that, so it looks like it's... Ugh. Okay, yeah, that was really annoying. What you just saw there was a prototype Protozoid Slimer. It was mostly a placeholder graphic. They didn't really put much effort into it. You can tell this was a beta because certain things are placeholders and certain things aren't. Now, as I was saying, this game falls apart when you're playing at a higher frame rate, and you can demonstrate by the amount of flickering that you see on the graphics there. It's really annoying, and and also, yeah. The collision detection isn't also properly programmed, so you get stuck in doors, and well, you don't get stuck in doors. You can phase through them. In the final version of Duke Nukem 3D, you can't get crushed by doors. If you get hit by a door, the door just blasts open. This is around the time when I realized that if I can fire the the game is running too fast, and I asked myself, if I can fire RPGs this fast, like some sort of RPG, machine gun RPG, machine gun rocket launcher, it's too fast for me. So I quit the game, and I messed around with the settings of DOSBox and set the cycles from max to 33,000 per millisecond. So it simulates a 33 megahertz processor, which is pretty much the fastest processor in 1994. So this is rather accurate in terms of speed. And now you start to see the game run at its proper speed. Now I tried to get into the how to order instructions, but 3D Realms didn't even get into writing the instructions for those. Here are the quotes. It's fun to kill things. I like blood and guts. It really put me into questions that either the developers of 3D Realms were sadists, or they like action movies to the point where they just distilled it to its the only reason to like in the first place. Just see things blow up and blood and guts fly everywhere. So I have encountered some other problems with Lameduke. Mostly the sound. Pretty much 90% of them are related to the sound. So I was trying to fool around with the Lameduke controls, and it really shows how shallowly programmed this is. Because when I mess around with the keys on Lameduke, as I'm wont to do when I play beta versions of games like this, the sound stopped. The sound pretty much stopped. So not only did the sound stop, the sound got corrupted. So the game didn't. Not only did the game not have sound, the game didn't have sound until I reinstalled Lameduke. So, okay, here's something funny that I showed right here. So when you walk into space, you expect to die. Especially in Duke Nukem 3D, where death in space is a bad thing. But okay, you can clearly walk out in space. That's another thing in Lameduke. You can't die. You are in permanent god mode in Lameduke. Now, the reason this is called Lameduke is because of the developers themselves thought this was lame, and I don't blame them. Although I can see how fun this will be, I definitely see how 3D Realms will change the paradigms of this. I can definitely see how it change the paradigms of the design of Duke Nukem. So because the enemies are kind of resemble the enemies from Duke Nukem 2, like the Slimers and stuff like that. The Slimers were in Duke Nukem 3D too, but I remember when I played Duke Nukem 2, and they're an enemy in that game. Alright, sorry, I had to change the volume there. It was a little too loud. So, this is the developers of this game, I think they scrapped the whole thing and started over. Pretty much little to nothing survived from this version of the game to Duke Nukem 3D, except like 10%. Even the RPG was once again modified, and the gun was, I think the gun was a little I don't know what gun it is. I think it's I don't want to throw models around like I'm some sort of pseudo gun aficionado, but I think that's a Glock or a Beretta. But I think they modified the gun graphic a little bit. I think they added a little bit more detail. The RPG, on the other hand, it covers half the screen, or really a good third of the screen. It's really in your way and obtrusive, and it can also be rather hard to target with this thing because it's so huge. So there are some. You're wondering why the weapons of this. No, not the weapons. The controls of this game are rather. Why having a hard time controlling this game? Well, the controls of this game aren't really good. In Doom, you had separate buttons for the strafe button, for strafe and turning. So you can set to the WASD keys, which I'm the most used to. I think it was due to my playing time in Quake and Quake 2 that I got used to the WASD keys. In this one, you can't even do that, so I had to set them to the arrow keys. Actually, these are the default controls. The jumping button is A, and the crouch button is Z. The strafe button, well, there is no strafe button. There's a strafe mode. You press down on the left Alt, and yeah, the game does specify that. Left Alt, and no, not left Alt, left Control. And you press right and left to strafe. It's really awkward considering the position of the left control key and the well, not the left control key, the right control key. The left control key fires the weapon. The right control key strafes the character. Well, it sets the strafe mode so you can move left and right. If you don't have the strafe button on, you can turn it. Now, in this switch, so the camera feature was you can tell that they're really all in with the camera feature. It was one of the few surviving features of Lameduke. It made it into the final version, but a funny glitch happens here. It copies the data from the screen and puts it on the texture. So you can get some sort of recursive effect where you can see your own screen, and the screen will see its own screen, and the screen will see its own screen, and it's almost like dividing by zero in a way. Luckily, the game was smart enough not to let that happen, enough for it to crash. So I'm really thankful for that. Really thankful for that, because I didn't want to have to deal with this game crashing again. Now, the weapons in this game, you have the taser. Taser is number 1 on the keypad. It's not the Mighty Boo for sure. I wish I had a Mighty Boo in this game. The taser has its uses, but it takes up ammo, and it makes me wonder, why do you have a melee weapon that takes up ammo? Like, isn't the point of melee weapons to save on ammo and get out of close situations? I mean, I understand if you have a powerful melee weapon that requires it to take ammo, but this is a taser. It's not really powerful. It barely does any damage. So the taser is set up in a way where you can burn through. Not only can it use up ammo, it burns through them in like 3 seconds. So it's really a useless weapon for trying to. So we're trying to do some close range combat with it. Not that it matters anyway, since I'm invincible. But if you want to add some sort of close quarters combat, don't let the melee weapon take up ammo. It's really it really gives me a good reason not to use it. The second weapon is the pistol, which you can fire at a fast rate, but not as much as the chain gun cannon in the final game. This third weapon is literally called Weapon 3. They didn't even bother to name it. They just said, okay, this looks cool, let's put it in there. It fires electromagnetic bolts at enemies, and it's actually rather useful for killing enemies with this gun. It has a whole lot of ammo too, like about 300, 600 bolts. So you never have to run out of ammo while using it. The game does give you every single weapon in the entire game, so you don't have to worry about picking them up. The fourth weapon is I have a hard time remembering what the fourth weapon is, but I think it's the pipe bomb. Yeah, it's the pipe bomb. The pipe bomb is actually really powerful in this game. One pipe bomb can eliminate an entire room full of enemies. However, it doesn't kill you because, once again, you're invincible. Here's another interesting feature that kind of demonstrates how powerful the build engine is. Locomotion. Doom didn't have locomotion because its data structure its level and map structure is extremely static. In the map editor, you compile the map literally in a separate program called BSP. That's because Doom uses binary space partitioning, which makes pretty much everything static. It literally makes turns the game into basic geometry that the player collides with. So it's impossible to have moving things in this game. You can have them move up and down in Doom, but you can never have them move right or left, because that will involve moving the geometry or manipulating the geometry itself. The build engine does not have BSP. Rather, it compiles them in real time, but it also allows for it doesn't follow BSP, so it allows for real-time manipulation of the geometry, which is why it allows for stuff like locomotion, sliding doors, heck, even escalation, which I found pretty cool. You'll see it later in this playthrough, so we'll get to that later. Now back to the weapons. The weapon that I'm using right now is the RPG launcher. As I already talked about how huge this weapon is, but it actually fires at a reasonable rate. I think at a faster rate than the final RPG launcher in Duke Nukem 3D. It's actually really powerful. The rate is coded. If you fire an RPG rocket at an enemy, it will immediately explode into gibs, but the rocket itself won't explode on them. So you fire a rocket at them, and the moment it comes into contact with them, they explode into gibs, and I found that rather funny. It's like firing a slow-moving railgun. The sixth weapon is, I think, a weapon that wasn't finished in this game. It was completely scrapped, but I wish they didn't, because it's a really cool idea for a weapon. It's called a sonic resonator. It fires sonic waves at an enemy. I think it goes for walls too. It gives you it has lots of ammo. I think it has about 600 cells. I want to say cells because I think it runs on plasma. But the sonic resonator fires sonic resonance waves at its target, and it goes right through its target. Once again, like a slow-moving railgun. It's actually except a little weaker. It's actually really cool to have sonic weapons in games like this one. I've always enjoyed sonic weapons. I found them rather powerful and at the same time general purpose. It's like a plasma gun in Doom, except it can go right through them, and it makes a really cool sound. And as a child, I always enjoyed Sonic type guns, it was a Sonic tank, but I don't know. I don't remember the name of it. Oh yeah, the Disruptor. The Disruptor in Tiberian Sun. I always enjoyed it. As a kid, I said to myself when I used that weapon, "Wow, that looks really cool." And I pretty much that's one of the reasons why I to this day still love the Disruptor. Not only was it cool looking, it was really powerful. Like all the games I played didn't have Sonic weapons. It was the first time I was exposed to a Sonic weapon, and I pretty much loved them ever since. Which is why I was rather sad when I heard that they scrapped the Sonic Resonator. It would have been an awesome weapon in Duke Nukem 3D. I definitely would have used it over the Shrinker and well, okay, not the Shrinker. The Shrinker version was another awesome weapon in Duke Nukem 3D. But I definitely think that they should have brought it back for the Atomic Edition, or rather the Plutonium pack, when they introduced the Birth. Instead, what I got was the Expander, which was another cool weapon, but I didn't really use it that much. But then again, I never really played the 4th episode that much either. I will be playing it for the first time from start to finish in the next play when I finish the Duke Nukem 3D with 100% walkthrough. Now, there are some unfinished features in this game because it's a beta. Obviously, it's gonna have some things that are unfinished, but certain switches don't work. That, and I've already demonstrated with the doors that there are some cool doors in this game, but one of them is I want to call them warp doors or hole doors because the way the doors open, it's a combination of both the sliding doors and the Doom doors. I like to call them Doom doors because, well, you caught them all the time in Doom. The doors that open up and down. It's a combination of the sliding doors and the Doom doors, and both of them open at the same time when you use the door. However, in this game, you can just synchronize them because of the bad collision detection. So the Doom door will open, but the sliding door will close on you, which is actually, I found that rather funny, and I did show that off. I think earlier in the playthrough of this level. Well, yeah, that's definitely an unfinished feature in this game. It was perfected in Duke Nukem 3D. I think in Fusion Station. You encountered those in Fusion Station. The doors in that level worked properly. It's the second episode, 4th level, E2L4. You'll see what I'm talking about when I say Doom doors. That's it right there. The Doom doors. Yeah, they don't operate. Yeah, they don't operate properly at all. And I actually got a good laugh out of using those doors. Now, I already talked about the continuation of Duke Nukem 2. The keys, you can press C to, I already talked about the general controls, but there are some hidden controls. You press W to, access the level select screen. This is called Warp Select. You press page up and page down to select the episode number. There are 4 episodes in this section. Well, not this section, this game. And each episode has episode 1 has 9 levels, but one of them is inaccessible because it uses the latest version of build, whereas that map requires an earlier version of build, version 4. Lameduke is version 5. So, episode 1 has 9 levels, 1 is unplayable. Episode 2 has 8 levels, episode 3 has 8 levels, and episode 4 has 4 levels. I think it has 5 levels, but one of it is unplayable. Due to the same reason that episode 1 level 9 is unplayable. Now, That's also how I got around to playing all the levels in Lameduke, because that's how, because some of these levels don't have exits. Remember, this is a beta, which means it's unfinished. So I ultimately did end up using the warp select code. No, it's not a code, it's a mode. The warp select to access the later levels. I do show off every single level in Duke Nukem, in the Duke Nukem 3D beta, because I want to demonstrate how some of these features are. I actually found some of these features rather cool, and some of them I even risked into the final game. I already talked about the sonic resonator, but there are some design elements that I wanted in the final game, but 3D Realms thought, nah, that's not putting in the final game. You'll see later. Much later, in fact. I think it takes place in the final 30 minutes of this video. I'm sorry if this is a long video, but I found this rather interesting. This whole game. The reason that I have this game right now is because I'm not one of the 5 people in the world who have a beta press release copy of Duke Nukem 3D. Nor am I like the 2,000 people who have the pirated release of Duke Nukem 3D. Which is the reason why you often see the "pirates suck" message in Duke Nukem, in the final version of Duke Nukem 3D. When you type in, I think, DN pirate or DM Blackbeard or something, I don't know. It's a pirate related code. But this is available to the public. You can download it online. I actually put a link in the description so you can play it yourself. This does require DOSBox to run. It's impossible to run native on Windows 7. I never really got that. Why does Windows 7 cut off support for the earlier Windows versions? I don't think Linux ever had that. Issue. I think you can run old Linux programs on new Linux programs. I can't say anything about the Mac because I never tried it, and I'm not a Mac user. But I don't think Linux ever had this issue. You can run some of its programs are even the original Unix programs from 1969. So yeah, no matter how old it is, if it ain't broke, they'll fix it. And I don't understand why you want to cut off support for MS-DOS, but at least have it as an option for the console. Like Mac had the terminal, and so did Linux. I don't understand why Windows decided to remove it. It still does have a terminal, but it's not DOS. It's not as intrusive as DOS, so... Anyway, what I just killed right there was, believe it or not, the Octobrain. Yep, that was an Octobrain. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, you can tell why this was called Lameduke. Developers didn't really like this game that much, which is why they changed it directly in Duke Nukem 3D. See, there I go again, walking into the vast reaches of space. Realism. Now, those stairs that you just saw right there, if that reminds you of anything, then if you played Duke Nukem 3D and that reminded you of anything, there's a turret right there. Yeah, the turret doesn't hurt you. I tried to demonstrate that. As a matter of fact, nothing hurts you. But if you recognize those stairs from Duke Nukem 3D, that's because that design element actually made it into the final game. In Lunar Reactor, in Lunar Apocalypse, Episode 2, Level 7. It's those stairs when you go into the Battlelord room, in the final Battlelord room. The section of the level that has 2 Battlelords in it when you're playing it and couldn't get some. This is, they pretty much use Liberty all over the map because they're trying to demonstrate how cool the build engine is with its portal-based viewing engine. Yeah, it uses portal-based. It does not use ray tracing like in Wolfenstein 3D. I don't know what system that Doom uses in terms of rendering geometry. I'm pretty sure it's unique to the engine itself. But you can tell that the developers were really excited to demonstrate the features of the build engine, even though they didn't really think that this game was, well, good. Now, the enemies in this game are almost nondescript. I don't remember the names of them on one hand, but this game does have a cyborg in it. A cyborg man and a cyborg woman. I don't remember the names of them. As a matter of fact, let me look it up right quick. There has been tons of information that has been expected from Lameduke, and it talks more about and it does reveal more about the development of Duke Nukem 3D. I'm on a page right now that describes the game. I did some research for Lameduke before I got into it, so I want you to get the full experience of what I went through. The enemies in this game are called the Sentry Drone. Oh, yeah. Those are flying things that I just fought. Those are called Sentry Drones. Not at all like the Sentry Drones in the final version that just come at you like some sort of intelligence robotic suicide bomber. The turret gun is pretty much self-explanatory. There is a feminoid in this game. It's basically a female android that fires a gun at you. It doesn't have a jib animation. So maybe it's because it's an android. That probably explains it. But it's only one of the two droids that are functional as enemies. The man droid does not, Here I'm trying to demonstrate, the talking feature in this game, which wasn't properly programmed. It's not modal, so you actually ended up using some of the other features in this. I actually ended up showing off some of the other features in this game, or lack thereof. I don't know what this is right there. I think that's the inventory screen, but there it goes. There is no sound. I just corrupted the sound files in Lameduke, so I had to restart the entire game over again. Well, not the entire game. You can pretty much access any level from the beginning, but had to go through the pain of reinstalling Lameduke and getting it to run again. There we go. I cut that out of the video. Yeah, there we go. You can pretty much crack your knuckles indiscriminately. Apparently, Duke Nukem has knuckles of steel. He never has to worry about them breaking. That's probably why he's able to crack them infinitely. Either that or he probably has arthritis. Or what he's doing may cause arthritis. Maybe he's making it worse, I don't know. No, the enemies are... I already described a feminoid. Here she is right here. They're not really tough, as I've demonstrated right there. Not that I have to worry, I'm invincible anyway, but yeah, even if you aren't invincible, they're not that tough. They say hate when they see you activate them and they try to shoot you. They're a little annoying with that. If you go into a room full of them, you see there's nothing like going to a room full of them and hearing hey play all over the place. It's really does get really annoying at that point. The man droid is the second of the two gender-based droids. It's not operational. It's pretty much a sprite. You can collide into it with a solid object, but but it doesn't have any AI, doesn't have any enemy AI, it doesn't shoot at you, it just says hey. More of a deeper hey than the feminoid, for obvious reasons. These the basic enemies that I shoot at you, those basic gray colored robotic enemies are called troopers. They're not the assault troopers from Duke Nukem 3D. They're basically regular old troopers. I think those are from Duke Nukem 2, but I'm not sure. I haven't really played Duke Nukem 2 that much, so I'm not really sure. Those are the troopers right there. Those are the troopers I'm talking about. You can jib them using the RPG launcher, like what I'm demonstrating right here. Yeah, see? It's like a slow-moving railgun. It just drills through them. That, big enemy, the big version of the troopers are the captains. It shoots you with a laser. No, not laser, a taser. It doesn't blow up. It's mostly, it doesn't have any core in it. It just blows up. The Protozoid Slimer I've already talked about. The Octobrain I've already talked about. There are sharks in this game, but they appear much later, like in later sections of episode 3. Alright. I don't know what level this is from, but it's from the... I don't know what level I'm referring to with the subways in Duke Nukem 3D. I know they're in Shrapnel City, but I'm not really sure what exact level they're from. I do know that it features a nasty section with one Battle Lord and then another Battle Lord appearing right behind you as you fight them and come get some. Yeah, not really looking forward to that in the 100% walkthrough. I'm not finished with it yet. I haven't really started on Shrapnel City yet, but I will get into it shortly after this video. Now, I do believe this takes design elements from this section right here. You can't ever enter that. You can't ever enter that section. I don't think it's even finished yet. I think they just put that there to not break the game pretty much, because this game can easily be broken. But the subway, you see these little dots? You see these little teal colored dots in the subway tracks? Those are build pointers. These are subway pointers. They for locomotion. It's the points. They had to follow those points in order. And they also have stops and in certain sections of the level. But yeah, if you ever edited a Duke Nukem 3D level, or pretty much a level in any build engine game, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You place these locomotion things in order from start to finish. Sometimes it's really awkward to do so, because when I was editing Duke Nukem 3D maps, I sometimes had the locomotor go all the way to one point on the other side of the map and then back to the same track. And it was really funny to see. Even outside of the entire map, I was into pretty much Duke Nukem 3D's 4th dimension when I wrote it. It's like the Stargate section from 2001, except you're riding a train doing it. It was hilarious. Now the subway level from Duke Nukem 3D obviously uses sections from this level. As a matter of fact, I dare even say this is a beta version of this level. So, oh yeah, the voice acting. The voice acting, John St. John was not on the team when this game was developed. At this part of the stage, he had no the iconic deep and gruff voice acting that became synonymous with Duke. He didn't really spout any one-liners. He pretty much was like the average id Software Craig Doom protagonist. He jumped, grunted, had pain sounds, and well, as you listen to him right here, he actually sounds kind of wimpy compared to the Duke Nukem in the final version. That's because the developers themselves were well, here I am trying to get the feminoid AI to operate, or Femizoid. I don't know. I already forgot what enemies' names were. But the Duke Nukem voice acting obviously improved a lot with the addition of John St. John, because the programmers can't voice act. But then again, that's why they're programmers, not voice actors. And it's almost surreal seeing Duke Nukem this wimpy, considering how badass he was in the final game. How they made him to be for him to be a badass in the in Duke Nukem 3D. Duke Nukem 2 had voice acting. He said one line, "I'm back," or something like that. He was already on his line stealing. He already began. Even then, he was already on his action movie line stealing rampage, because that line was from the Terminator. Alright. Definitely does bring into consideration how much effort the 3D developers put into the voice acting to really sell the character. This is a demo level. Episode 1, level 6. This features a few bars and some rather tall platforms and a rather interesting section that I want to show you. Now, I'm not going to show you to now. A little later, you'll see it when it comes. Alright, now, I think I spent enough time talking about Duke Nukem 3D as a... Well, okay, I want to talk about how Lameduke even got into the internet space. Now, to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Duke Nukem 3D, which was released in January of 1996, in January of 1997, they released this onto the internet, which was called the Duke Nukem 3D beta. The developers of this game, 3D Realms, called this Lameduke. The reason that they called it Lameduke is because they thought that the features in this game were lame, which is why I think at least 90% of the game right here was completely and totally scrapped. I think only a few design elements and like 2 weapons even made it out of this build. I think that's an actual movie poster, but you mind telling me what this movie poster is? I don't watch a lot of action movies. I used to as a kid, but I don't really have the time to now. This poster made into the final version of Duke Nukem 3D. I think it's somewhere in Shrapnel City that you see it. In the latter sections of Shrapnel City. I maybe in the level where right at the beginning of the level there's an earthquake, and Duke Nukem says, "I ain't afraid of no quake," or something like that. Obviously a reference to id Software's Quake. Yeah, you kind of see how 3D in those games, 3D Realms were rather I don't want to say juvenile, even though they kind of are, but kind of hostile towards other franchises. Either that, or they probably played it in jest, kind of like how Seth MacFarlane makes fun of The Simpsons, and even though he is just directly inspired by The Simpsons, and he's not really doesn't have really any ill will towards the creators. I don't know. Some of these jokes, some can get a little overboard, like the crucified Tomb Raider joke in Shadow Warrior. I wouldn't say it's too far, but I definitely do have that fun in my mind. That I don't think they're playing this in jest. I think they genuinely hate these characters and think Duke Nukem is the greatest character ever made. But I don't know what actually been on in the office of 3D Realms. But anyway, that level with the where's I going with this again? Trying to get my get the train back on track. Train of thought back on track. Oh yeah, this level is kind of reminiscent of that level of the I ain't afraid of no quake level in Shrapnel City, with the bars and the dance clubs. I dare even say it's a beta version of that. Some of those posters do make their appearance on there. But I'm not exactly sure. It's been a long time since I played that episode. I have played the first 2 episodes, but not the third one. No, I have played the third one, but I haven't played the third one recently, is what I'm trying to say. Here I am showing off the underwater effects in the build engine. The way it works is that you have a sector effector, which are pretty much spliced to manipulate the sectors that you're on. You put a water sector effector on the top of the water pool, and then you set the pool to a certain tag, and then you set the pool sector to a certain tag, and then you put a teleport sector effector to the other side from the top of the water, and then you create a sector that goes to the bottom of the water. Yeah, I don't understand what they're going for with this one. Like, what is that? Why is he so huge? I mean, I guess he was supposed to be a boss character, but like, you know, that King Mook trope. She's supposed to be green Femazoid, but I don't know. Like, I think she was supposed to be a placeholder graphic for a boss, or maybe 3D Realms were just messing around with the levels, and because you know how they are, they always like to mess with things. I definitely imagine that the atmosphere of the 3D Realms development room was rather lighthearted and friendly. Like, it didn't really take almost anything seriously. Unlike game design companies now, where you have to meet deadlines, there's a whole lot of stress. You have to work about 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week minimum. There's a whole lot of time to cram and stuff. As a matter of fact, some developers even encourage that, which is kind of exploitative in a way, but I'm not about to open that can of worms. But you definitely can tell that 3D Realms was excited with the technology that they had. I think now is the time to talk about the build engine. Now, the build engine was, I think it started developing in 1988, based on what I'm seeing here based on what I'm reading here from Ken Silverman's official page. As a matter of fact, I'm about to look up right now. Ken Silverman has a website. It's rather simple. It looks like it came out of directly out of the 90s. But yep, it's this page. It's called advsys.net. advsys.net. That's his website. You can go there right now if you want. /Ken. Don't forget to add /Ken to it. advsys.net/Ken. You'll access this page. The build engine was used by a total of 14 games. The 14 games were, well, here the first are the big 3, which are Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, and Blood. The reason that I call them the big 3 is because Ken Silverman actively worked on the development teams for those 3 games, developing the engine even further. Yeah, the engine was in constant development between the periods of 1994 and 1997. As a matter of fact, the Duke Nukem 3D's build engine was an earlier version of the Shadow Warrior build engine, which used voxels and room over room. Duke Nukem 3D did not have either of those things. But both Shadow Warrior and Blood did. Of the big three, only 2 of those games had their source codes released. Blood did not have their source codes released, so you had to play it either on the original DOS version or not at all. Using DOSBox. I heard of some projects that are trying to bring build to the modern PCs without the need for DOSBox, but I haven't really tried them out yet. The build engine games that he did some sort of limited support for, in his own words, are Power Slave, which is a port of a Saturn game that I actually played in my childhood. It's kind of like Metroid meets Doom, set in an Egyptian setting. I might be doing an LP of that game soon, if I ever get my hands on Saturn. The original Saturn version is the best version to play. It was released on the PlayStation 2. It was released on the PlayStation also, but with some features cut out. The Saturn version also featured a game called Death Tank Zwei. Zwei being their German word for 2. Which reminds me of Panzer Dragoon Zwei. Another game that I played during my childhood, but Power Slave did feature some ports to the PC, and it used the build engine, which is obviously different from the Slave Driver engine that ran on the Saturn version. So the Slave Driver engine also was used for the Saturn version of Duke Nukem 3D. It was so good that it was even used for Quake. Yes, the Saturn port of Quake did not use the Quake engine, it used the Slave Driver engine. It even looked better than Quake in some ways, because it had colored and dynamic lighting. It looked amazing. It really did, especially considering the hardware that it was made for. Saturn was notoriously hard to program for, so you got that going. So definitely, the Slave Driver engine was definitely a very good engine considering this is what I was talking about with the water not being implemented properly. This is what happens if you do the water effect wrong. You end up going up and down the water repeatedly, and also and you just go and dunk yourself back into the water automatically, no matter how hard you try to get out of the water. Another glitch I've encountered is that if you go up the water, if you set it up incorrectly, you can go down into the same into the water, and then poke your head out into the same underwater sector that you just appeared out of. So you can just go up the water infinitely. Yeah, the build engine was fun in its own right. It was simple and cheap, but it was effective. That's why it was used for so many games. Now the other games were Rich Haven, one of the first build engine games. Haven't tried it out yet. Rich Haven 2, Blood Vengeance. Tech War, which was actually the first build engine game. I actually heard it was pretty terrible. It was released in 1995, but I heard it was pretty terrible. Fate, Redneck Rampage Rides Again, and Redneck Deer Hunting. That's deer hunting with an IN and an apostrophe. Redneck Deer Hunting. Ooh yeah. Other legal build engine games that I'm aware of, what Ken Silverman was saying. Napalm, which was released in 1998. World War II GI, WWII GI. And I'm pretty sure you have heard of first one, if you paid attention to some of the worst games of all time. Extreme Paint Brawl was released on the build engine. Yes, that's right. Extreme Paint Brawl was so bad that it was released on the game engine that looked old even in 1996. So showed how much they cared about trying to bring something new to the marketplace. Alright, I'm about to get into the timeline of the build engine. 1988, he got his first PC, a 386DX20 with 1 megabytes of DRAM and VGA graphics and as a bar mitzvah gift from his parents. Ken Silverman's Jewish. I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah. In 1998, the 386 was considered powerful. I think around about 10 megahertz. Which was considered really fast in 1998 because in 1998, what was considered powerful was, well, the NES basically. The NES was as hard as its popularity in 1988, so having a PC that powerful definitely did blow my mind a bit. That is, if we had the money to buy something that powerful. I'm pretty sure Ken Silverman did. I don't know about his early life, but definitely did have the means to program, and he definitely did also have the free time to program. Here's Ken Silverman's history of the build engine. In 1988, he wrote his first program in C with some quote-unquote significant help from my family. Yeah, apparently he grew up in a area full of programmers, a family full of programmers, which is probably why he's a programmer himself. I think it runs in the family. No, it's in his genes or whatever. He programs his first game called Ken's Labyrinth, which is a game that was actually sold to the public. You can look it up right now. It's on mobile games and other stuff, or games like that. I think it's on old DOS abandoned nerd sites, so you can play it for free. Scott Miller of Apogee Software signed an NDA to evaluate Ken's Labyrinth. And that's where he begins to have that's where his career at Apogee, which eventually became 3D Realms, officially began. Some developers at Apogee took a look at his programming ability and said, we could probably make a profit off of this. If we create a game based off this engine, we can make a whole lot of money. And that's exactly what they did with Duke Nukem 3D. Ken's Labyrinth, I don't know the legalities of Ken's Labyrinth. I don't know if Ken actually received any money or Apogee received the money for it, but he did. But I do know that Ken definitely programmed the game. Hell, it's in the name. Ken's Labyrinth. I think we're at the end of episode 1. I think this may even be the final episode of episode 1, but here features here's another feature of the build engine, planes. You can set them with the locomotion. You can also have them fire rockets at you. I don't know if they programmed that in the beta version, but I do know that it was definitely in the final version. You know how Lunar Apocalypse started? Episode 2? A ship goes by and fires rockets at you. You actually do get hit quite a bit from it, but you don't die from it. Yeah, I think that's what it was trying to demonstrate right there. Also no fall damage. Yeah, it fell from like 50 stories and it didn't die. That apparently Duke Nukem has shins of steel. Alright, in 1993, March 29th, he developed COCKROACH4.basic. He worked on Quick Basic, one of his favorite programs Definitely one of my favorite programs too. You can just set the I used to program all the time in Quick Basic, so I understand why he wants to program using Quick Basic. It was really an awesome engine. He ported to C using the Ken's Labyrinth, drawing the assembly code, COCKROACH4.c. I think that's one habit that aspiring programmers need to do. They need to program it in simpler, more accessible languages before porting it into the harder, more intensive languages such as C. That's what Ken did. That's what Ken Silverman did, and definitely did help him out. April 13th, 1993. I decided I had, in his words, I decided I had enough new engine-related files to create a new directory. I just needed to pick a name. I remember using a thesaurus to find synonyms of the word construction because it had too many syllables. I decided to name the directory Build. The game was called Build, while the map editor which was in Create Basic, was called Edit Board. Yeah, that's the origin of the word Build. Ken Silverman didn't know how to name the engine, so it's just called a Build. Like, I'm building the engine. I think it was supposed to be a in development name, but it never changed, which is why it was still called the Build engine. Alright, you ever wonder how Build engine got its sector-based architecture? He got it directly from John Carmack. He called John Carmack, I think in 1994? Yes. Right at the beginning of 1994, January 2nd, 1994. Ken finally rewrites his engine using the sector idea after talking with John Carmack on his telephone. Before, I was using a grid to find nearby walls and a painter's algorithm to sort the walls front to back. There were a lot of drawing bugs with the old method. So yeah, this is directly inspired by the Doom engine. The sector-based engine, which definitely put this whole thing together. The portal-based build was what was responsible for being able to write sectors over rooms. And Duke Nukem 3D used it to the best of its ability. And it definitely did lead to some cool effects, like in Lunatic Fringe. You can look it up on my walkthrough, Lunatic Fringe. The whole level is a circle, but you go a full, not one full turn, but two full turns. 720 degrees to go back to where you were. You can circle it, and then you can head straight to the same place, but it'll be covered with goo and everything. And then you turn again, and it'll be back to normal. And once you get in the central hub, you see two different levels completely, which I found mind-blowing. It was amazing. I love that level precisely because of that reason. You can look through one window and you see one level. You look through another window and you see a completely different level. That was really cool. It's definitely one of the high marks of the Build engine. Now, the rest of the development notes just show his progress that he was making. He took a lot of notes, which is pretty much a necessity for a programmer. But it's really amazing how detailed he is with the timeline of the development of the Build engine. In 1990, in January 29th, 1996, Duke Nukem 3D was released, the first version. And in July 6, 2000, the Build engine source code was released to the public, which is what led it to be ported to modern consoles, which is what led to Duke 32, which incorporates features from future Build engine games into Duke Nukem 3D, which I found awesome. Sector over sector, wall over wall, no, not sector over sector, room over room. That those look amazing in Duke Nukem 3D, and I'm happy that they put them in this game. Alright. Now, I think I should talk about Ken Silverman himself. He was born and raised in Rhode Island, but he also went through Washington and, well, not Washington, Washington. No, I definitely believe it was Redmond, Washington, where Microsoft was headquartered. And he also went to 3D Realms Garland, Texas HQ, where he worked with developers of Duke Nukem 3D and other games. He attended a lot of business trips, actually. I think he spent... this is how detailed he is with this stuff. On his web page he has his semesters that he spent in Brown University, and on his page he has the exact number of days that he spent outside of Rhode Island. He detailed every single day outside of Rhode Island. He spent 261 days in Garland, Texas, and 31 days in Redmond, Washington. That's on his page. I can't believe he would do. Can't believe he'll do something as nerdy as that. But that's definitely a mark for a programmer to be extremely detailed in that kind of stuff. He is simply a programmer at heart. He's not a game programmer, as I believe that game programmers. Well, there's something about game programming that make it really fun to do, even though it takes a lot of hard work. But I think that he kind of defaulted to that because he spent most of his time programming random tech demos and stuff like that, such as VoxLab and seriously, go on his page. He has a lot of cool stuff, such as I'm looking on his page right now. Polydraw is basically a live IDE programmer. It runs the program and it compiles and runs the code of the program at the same time. So you're actually the program is actually coming to life as you program it. It's really cool, and I really recommend that if you're a programmer, I highly recommend that if you're a programmer, you at least try it out. Here I go again with the rotating section. It didn't even bother to put the collision detection on there, so I ended up going through the wall and into the fourth dimension. You can also see it in other sections of the game. Now, on his build page, he's not a game programmer. He's just simply a programmer. He just likes programming. That's it. He doesn't want to stay committed to the company or even stay committed to game programming like John Carmack did, which is how its software got to where it was. And it makes me wonder, what would have happened if 3D Realms never got Ken Silverman? What if the build engine never existed? I definitely would have believed that they didn't have the talent to program something as advanced as the build engine. So they probably wouldn't have gotten. It probably would have either been a Wolfenstein 3D clone, or even then probably something else entirely. I don't think they had the talent to program a fully intricate 2.5D engine like this one. So I think Duke Nukem 3D would have never been made, and Duke Nukem would have been a forgotten character like Commander Keen or Alex Kidd, instead of a PC gaming icon that he is now. And some of the design decisions that 3D Realms has made were questionable, to say the least. Ken Silverman did have the talent to make a 3D engine, a fully 3D polygonal engine. It's called Polytech. Look it up on his page. He definitely did develop it. He wanted to compete with Quake. He wanted Polytech to be an improvement to Quake, like how the build engine was an improvement to a Doom engine. But for some reason, 3D Realms never really followed up with it, which is interesting, considering that this would have been a golden opportunity to one-up its software. Like create a sequel to Duke Nukem that used a Polytech engine. Duke Nukem Forever could have been on the Polytech engine, and it would have been released in 1997. It would have been developed really quickly, and it would have been amazing. But eventually, Silverman, they told him, no, work on the build engine. Only concern yourself with the build engine. And the game pretty much went out of favor. After that, Ken Silverman left, and after that, 3D Realms kind of fell apart. a lot of feature creep went into the Duke Nukem Forever project, and it turned into the absolute mess that it was in 2011. They went bankrupt, and really brings into question how good is the company 3D Realms exactly? Like, what the hell were they doing? Where were they going with Duke Nukem right here? I mean, Duke Nukem didn't really have a full direction, a razor sharp direction. I think Duke Nukem 3D did. You knew what Duke Nukem was supposed to be, an action, a womanizing action hero who blew stuff up. But in earlier games, he wasn't that. He was, I think he was just a man who wanted to blow up Dr. Proton so he can get to back to his varying episodes of Oprah. And what action hero really admits to watching Oprah? Like, I found that hilarious. Alright, in the first game they made him out to be some sort of Buck Rogers type character that made him okay, he just wanted to blow up enemies and then go home and watch Oprah. That's pretty much it. In the second game, they made up for him to be some sort of action-packed smartass like Indiana Jones and stuff, and stuff like that. In the third game, he's a dumbass. He's pretty much meathead in the third game. And the only thing he knows what to do is blow stuff up and say one-liners from other. Okay, here's an interesting fact right here. They forgot to set the sky texture, and it ends up looking like that. That's what happens when you don't set the sky texture, and you don't set the sky texture in the build well, but you do set the sky flag on the top sector. You can set it on the floor too, but I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I do know that you could do it on Doom. But all I had to do is set it to a certain texture, and it'll render in the special way. Here you set a flag. I kind of enjoy it better if they set it as a flag, because it's much better to you can set just about any texture, and you can have multiple sections of the level have different skies. Thought that was cool. But yeah, in this game you can tell that this was an amalgamation of the two styles in Duke Nukem 2 and Duke Nukem 3D. He was trying to be both a smartass and a dumbass, and it's almost contradictory in a way. I mean, this is a game where he has steroids, which are commonly associated with meatheads, but he also has also has his personality based on Duke Nukem 2, where he was a smartass, or smart aleck, in a way. I think that it was. Oh, okay, this is a funny texture right here. This is a picture of a card that they said as a texture. Like, I don't know. Why did they... Anyway, here's a... I think this is enough for, well, I do want to say one more thing about 3D Realms. Actually, no, I'll probably talk about them later. Right now, I want to direct you to a rather really interesting page on the build engine. It's called the, Duke Nukem 3D Code Review by Fabian Sanglard. His name is spelled Fabien Sanglard. This is one of my favorite pages to go through. His blog is one of my favorite pages to go through because he has such a beautiful way of describing code. He has diagrams and everything. He also has videos of how the programs are processed in slow motion. I don't know how he's able to do that, but but I found that really awesome. And he also did the one on Doom and Quake 2. Also, some of my favorite games, except Quake 2. I found it a little lackluster, but I'll describe that in the potential future review. It'll probably be a lot later, but I definitely plan on reviewing Doom and Quake first. But anyway, Mr. Sanglard he's a programmer himself. He's a game programmer, and he's primarily a C programmer, which I like how the head just floated for a second there. Sorry about that. ADD moment, but he actually is a game programmer himself. He's a C game programmer, and he programs on a Mac. I think he has Coco installed in his Mac, but he also has a Windows PC for decoding game subsidies. He does code reviews on many games, old school games. He even does tech reviews games on code bases on. He does code reviews on tech demos. This is Second Reality, the tech demo Second Reality. I think that's what it's called. He did a tech demo on that. They actually released a source code recently. It's a really good tech demo. I don't think it runs a DOS spot, so you go ahead and look at the YouTube video of that. But it's really advanced. He did a source code review on that, and if there's anything that will get you, if there's anything that can inspire you to code, it's looking at code reviews for other projects. It's really, you learn a million things about coding when you do code reviews. You really do. That's how I learned about modular-based Z programming when I looked at how Quake 2 was structured. It had a modular interface. You can plug in the dynamic link libraries into it, and they'll render it in the same way, in different ways. Basically, the dynamic link library is a bunch of functions for another program to use. So if you think of it like that, and if you think of it in a plug and play type situation, then you can try a lot of different things. That's how the software and OpenGL renderer in Quake 2 was able to you were able to switch to that on the fly without having to quit out of the game itself or and opening up the other source port like you did with Quake 1 to be exact. He did a source code review of Build. I did too. The source code is a complete and utter mess. Like, there was one function that was 4,000 or 5,000 lines long, and I felt like Indiana Jones trying to navigate my way through the source code. Like, okay, what does this do? What does this do? Like, you need to reset a stone for that. It's really almost incomprehensible. Jonathan Fowler should get a medal for being able to decipher it. Must have ported to Windows. But the way that he coded it kind of reminds me of when I coded when I was 18 years old. My process at the time was, no one's going to read this code but me. I'm only going to release a full version. I never released a full version of my programs, and it ended up being a rather horrible idea anyway, because when I got to my code 3 years later, I forgot what it did. I didn't put any code in mine, comments in mine, and I forgot what it did completely. I compiled it and probably thought, I compiled it with like 50 warnings, and it was like, oh, that's what it does. It was like opening a treasure chest with it's like opening a nondescript treasure chest and finding out which item does. Except there's no documentation on it anywhere. You have to figure it out yourself. It's really amazing how Ken Silverman was able to program a game engine this advanced at the age of 18. I can barely program Hello World at 18. Well, I say I could program Hello World at 13, but I was able to program basic splitting functions at the age of 18, but nothing to this extent. I did not have this technological advancement. This talent of programming something this technologically advanced. Even if it is a little old now, with the advent of engines such as the Rage engine, it's id Tech 5, and the Unreal 3 engine. But then again, those were worked on by hundreds of people. Well, this was worked on by one guy, which makes this even more remarkable. if the some of the effects are unique to the build engine are palette effects, which weren't in Doom or even Quake. You can set certain sectors to certain palettes, and if you're on a sector, it'll set it to that exact palette. You can set it for. You can make it all blue. You can make it all orange. You can set it for orange lighting. It was a basic form of color-based sector lighting, but it wasn't really surpassed by that until Quake 2, which was released 2 years after Duke Nukem 3D came out. Also has rotating sectors, which is part of the build engine's ability to manipulate points in space, because that's how it's able to render those walls. They're basically they just take the way the build engine is structured. It just takes whatever's on the wall and renders it, and it also forms basic collisions with the sprites, so it doesn't need BSP. It's literally maps are literally just a bunch of points that the walls are connected to, and sprites. That's it. Doom's maps are much more advanced in terms of structure, but not in features. It needs a reject map, a block map for collision detection, a BSP map, stuff like that. It needs to be compiled, where build engine maps don't need to be compiled. The sheer simplicity of the build engine is what makes it so easily moddable, which is why 14 games used it. Potentially more. I heard of some games that use the build engine illegally, including one that actually used Doom sprite, including one unfinished one that actually used Doom sprites as placeholders. Let me look at it. Maybe look that up. Let me look that up. Unreleased. Corridor 8 Galactic Wars. There we go. That was unreleased. If you look that up on YouTube, you'll see that it's hilarious. It uses or maybe it's the wrong. Maybe it's not Corridor 8 I'm thinking about. Maybe it's the sequel to that crappy game that I don't remember the name of it, but maybe it's a sequel to that game, but it used the Doom engine sprites. It also used the build engine. Anyway, destructible environments are already talked about. How this relates to Duke Nukem Forever. Well, yeah, I kind of wanted to delve into this development cycle of Duke Nukem 3D. Kind of get this feeling that Duke Nukem has never really been anything more than a bunch of cool things that 3D developers put together and try to connect it together with some sort of cohesion and story. A really basic form of cohesion and story. Like Duke Nukem 3D was pretty much a bunch of references to cool sci-fi and action movies that they watched. Duke Nukem himself is pretty much a combination of multiple action heroes, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dolph Lundgren. As a matter of fact, he kind of does look like Dolph Lundgren. If you ever looked up comparison screenshots of Duke Nukem and Dolph Lundgren, look him up. The resemblance is uncanny. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he is pretty much an amalgamation of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and he looks like Dolph Lundgren. He's pretty much the 80s encapsulated. 80s action movies encapsulated. And there's nothing wrong with putting a bunch of cool things together and calling it a game. I mean, that's how Doom got created. But if they're trying to do something really serious with Duke Nukem, then that's probably not the plan for him to do it in. He doesn't have the elements to make a strong story, and his only meaning is to basically be or sort of a robot that spouts one-liners at the right time, which is what he was in Duke Nukem 3D. He was kind of augmented by a very, very good and well-designed game in Duke Nukem 3D. However, more and more people remember the character instead of the gameplay itself, which is very good. Which is why, for some reason, a lot of people like Duke Nukem Forever, because Duke Nukem's in it. Like, I don't care if Jesus himself is in it. If the game is bad, the game is bad. And Duke Nukem Forever was bad, and Duke Nukem 3D was good. That's the difference. That's the difference maker for me. The meaning of Duke Nukem as a character is, well, I don't want to find a deeper meaning in Duke Nukem. He's just a womanizing, sexist meathead and idiot who fires and blows everything up. He's pretty much nothing more than nothing less than that. So, I don't understand what they're trying to do with Duke Nukem Forever in that sense. But I think this is sort of evidence that they're trying to try multiple styles at the same time, trying to mesh them all together, but it ends up being a big mess. Which is why you get, it's like pretty much the same thing in Duke Nukem Forever. You went from the really creepy Hive and High Level, and which was in the second episode of Duke Nukem Forever, the second chapter, the second level of the second chapter. But then it gets to but then you get out of the Hive and it's all juvenile jokes and Duke spouting bad one-liners again. And it was like, what? What would you? It's kind of like the same thing here. Sometimes this game gets really gruesome at times, and then it gets rather funny again. Duke Nukem 3D never really had that. It had a consistent tone throughout. And oh, I forgot. Episode 2 has 7 levels, not 8. I think the 8 is incompatible with this one because it was made in an earlier version. But the design philosophy of if it's cool, put it in there worked for early PC games where you weren't given information overload. There wasn't really much of an internet. But when it works, it really works. Like you've seen Doom. Seen how legendary Doom is. It was basically supposed to be aliens, but for licensing reasons, they replaced the aliens with demons. There was a good sense of sharp focus there. The title itself is pretty much a Metallica reference, or to Metallica typeface. The music is filled with a lot of references to heavy metal music. Even the cover art looks like heavy metal. And in Duke Nukem 3D, it's basically Duke Nukem 3D is to action movies what Doom is to heavy metal, in my opinion. Because the cover of Duke Nukem 3D is a reference to Army of Darkness. Duke Nukem 3D says a whole lot of lines from Army of Darkness and They Live. And there are a lot of alien and sci-fi references in episode 2. And was there a movie called Escape from LA? I know there's Escape from New York, but was there a movie called Escape from LA? Whatever it was, I'm pretty sure that the third episode was a reference to all. The entire third episode was a good reference to that. Alright. As I was saying about the design philosophy, if you have a select few things that you thought were cool, then yeah, you can add them together, but you need to make sure it has a consistent theme. Doom's theme is heavy metal. Duke Nukem 3D is action movies. What was Duke Nukem Forever's theme? Like, I don't know what it was going for. Was it making fun of modern first-person shooters, or was it directly copying from? Is it a homage to modern first-person shooters? See, this is where the design philosophy of add a bunch of cool things goes wrong. Because if you don't have a consistent theme, then you're just going to add a bunch of cool things without any sort of cohesion or context, and it's going to end up being a complete mess. Like George Broussard, the developer behind, one of the main developers behind Duke Nukem 3D, he took a look at the snow effects from The Thing and said, "Okay, that is so cool. I need to add this to Duke Nukem Forever immediately." And people were like, "What? But we just..." And when you say things like that when things are already finished, then you're going to anger a lot of people. You're just blowing things up and starting over, and how can the project not be a complete train wreck if you do things like that? That's probably why I was cautiously optimistic about Duke Nukem Forever, but then common sense suggested it was going to be terrible. And it was, and I was, even if I knew it was going to be terrible, I thought I was disappointed. I was actually rather disappointed with the result. I cannot get over the fact that people actually like Duke Nukem Forever because of Duke Nukem. I mean, I like Duke Nukem Forever. No, I don't like Duke Nukem Forever. I like Duke Nukem 3D because of the game itself. The game is amazing to play. And I don't like Duke Nukem Forever because this game is boring and rather ugly to look at, despite the fact that Duke Nukem is in it. So, the level that we're taking a look at here is Derelict. Actually is a huge reference. Actually is a huge beta version of Derelict. The entire level is a great big reference to Derelict. The level from I think it's episode 4 to level 8 from Duke Nukem 3, the Atomic Edition, or Duke Nukem 3D with the Plutonium pack. But this is basically a huge ship level, like Derelict. You can go down from the bottom into the water, and then you go outside of the water itself, ship itself. And I actually had to restart the level because the lift didn't work. It's impossible to get certain sections of the level without using lift, unless you use a jetpack, which I didn't know how to use without breaking the game. I was kind of afraid to use a jetpack because I might accidentally use a key that will break the sound of the game. I honestly didn't want to install Lameduke again. Or start the whole thing over. The discarded elements of the Derelict level are, we'll see later. I think Derelict was supposed to segue into some sort of underwater base. Like there was supposed to be a second level where you start from the ship itself crashes, and you get out of the ship, and then you head straight into the underwater base. I think the underwater base will be where you meet the alien queen, the final boss of Duke Nukem 3D, the Atomic Edition. And it will make sense because the alien queen fight takes place underwater. I think this is it right here, the base. I think the base is underwater, but I'm not sure. You look outside and I see water, so I assume it's underwater. That definitely would have been a great segue to the final level. I don't know how you went there. I just... Here's the ship. That's a Derelict ship. Right there. Exactly the same ship, and it connects directly to the base over there. I definitely would have been behind the idea of a level that's based on, that starts with you getting off the Derelict ship and on into the alien base and fighting your way to the alien queen. That would have been a fitting end to Duke Nukem 3D, but I'm surprised they scrapped it. Now, I heard a very apt description of the build engine by John Carmack, the programmers, or pretty much the main programmer for Doom and Quake and all those other engines, and pretty much the backbone of id Software's the technical muscle. He described build as being put together of bubblegum and tape, or something to that effect. And considering how loose and manipulatable that or malleable the build engine's maps are, you can easily tell as why. That and the code base is really hostile. The code base is, well, people don't really do source ports of build engine games. As a matter of fact, I know of only two. Jonathan Fowler's JF Duke 3D and E Duke 32. Maybe it's because they have to navigate through the mess that was the build engine code, because the way the build engine is structured is that there are three modules. One is the engine module, which is 95% of the code. Second is the game module, and 3 is the control module. I think they as a whole comprise about 5% of the total code. Now this is the level I was talking about, the discarded elements of the derelict level. The derelict level has, in this version of Duke Nukem 3D, the beta version, the derelict level is connected to an alien underwater base. I guess this is the way to the alien underwater base. You see here, the bridge is connected to the base right there. And notice how the ship isn't crashing into anything. It was headed straight for the alien base. All the mentions that the alien base was an EDF base that was taken over by aliens or something. I don't know, it's really interesting to see. And you can go underwater to certain sections of the... Okay, this is a very funny section right here. The sharks explode in this game. The shark enemies that I described earlier in the game, they explode. That's really ridiculous. I mean, who ever heard of sharks exploding? It's like, okay, Duke Nukem 3D is ridiculous, but it's not to this extent. In that game, whenever you kill the sharks, they explode into blood and guts. Here they just explode, as in straight up gunpowder explosion. It's hilarious. It's like that scene from Austin Powers, the one where Dr. Evil says, "I want some sharks with freaking lasers on their heads." Or I heard a joke from The Simpsons that described about bees or dogs shooting bees from their mouths. This is pretty much up there in terms of ridiculousness. Alright, well, as I was saying about the build engine. Well, I was actually talking about the derelict section, and it has certain... This is made out of 3 separate areas. The first area is over the water. The second area is underwater. Actually, it's made out of 6 areas. The first area is underwater. The second area is over water. The third, fourth, and fifth areas are the individual reservoirs that are inside the alien base, and the sixth area is the alien base itself. It's really interesting to see how intricately designed these build maps are, and how well built the build engine is. In terms of well, it's actually not a very powerful engine compared to Quake, but it's very useful for building rudimentary 2.5D maps that have just about everything you need to put together a very believable world. I think this is the version of build that doesn't have slopes in it. Because I'm pretty sure this would have slopes in it if they could. I'm pretty sure they will use slopes to the best of their ability. So, I think slopes were introduced later in build. I don't know how they're able to do slope code. Killing Silverman is the only person I know of who will introduce a slope-based code in a static like 2.5D area such as the Doom-like build engine. But I'm pretty sure it involves some very intricate form of trigonometry. I really got a little tired of the long pathway. This is under construction, but I don't know if this was intentional or not. Maybe it was Solid Stray saying, "We're not done with this area yet." Or maybe it was really intended to be that way because they'll put so much effort into it. Because usually in unfinished sections of levels, they won't put that much effort into them. Because they want to let you know that it is obviously unfinished. I have no idea how to get past that red fence. I just don't. I try pressing the switch, but it does nothing. This is another reason why this level is unfinished. Certain switches don't work. Not only that, but it doesn't have an exit either. Looking at these levels, it makes me wonder what the atmosphere was for 3D developments at the time. I mean, if you look at these levels and you obviously think, okay, they're creating these all kinds of these great levels. I wonder what it must be like having these dreams of creating these worlds and then bringing them to life using an engine that a very young but very talented programmer was able to make. I'm pretty sure it must feel amazing to have that feeling. I had that feeling too, and it was, although not to this extent, and it's definitely a good way of saying, yeah, this is my creation. This is our creation. You can tell that 3D albums have something very good going for them when they made this game. I think you already heard my opinions on the Duke Nukem Forever feature creep. I said that if you have cool things going on, you've seen something cool in the movie, and you should put it in the game, as long as it has a consistent theme to it, and it's obvious that it's a reference or homage to it. I have no problem with that. However, if you introduce things that could clash with each other, then if you're trying to make an old-school shooter, but make it a corridor, another military-style corridor shooter on top of that, you're going to inevitably get the worst parts of either. And it's not going to work. We've already seen that happen with Duke Nukem Forever with long, boring corridor sections, reminiscent of modern military shooters, and really in-your-face and unskippable cutscenes. And stuff that really should have died in the 90s, such as first-person platforming, jumping puzzles, bosses that slow down the pace of the gameplay. It's really a result of one style clashing with another, leading to neither being really achieved in any meaningful way. Now, one article that I highly recommend you read if you want to learn more about the development of Duke Nukem Forever is Wired's Learn to Let Go, How Success Killed Duke Nukem. You can Google it if you want. It's very interesting to see how the development of the game went through. But I'll summarize it here. It's actually very revealing as to how Duke Nukem Forever became the mess that it was. Along with the franchise itself. And it's really a shame because the Duke Nukem franchise has a lot of potential to be really fun, but other franchises of its style has pretty much... Other franchises of its style have pretty much all played Duke Nukem to the point where he's pretty much pointless to have in the video game industry anymore, such as Serious Sam. Yeah, you know about Serious Sam, right? He has been a thing since 2001. The most recent game that that was released was Serious Sam 3, which was in 2012, so there's still a market for people who want to just go on and play a video game. Arcade-style, fast-paced, run-and-gun first-person shooters. And then there's the return of franchises such as Rise of the Triad and Shadow Warrior, both Apogee and 3D Realms games. So of all those franchises, Duke Nukem, the most prominent character of the 3D Realms 3D Realms' works has been left out to the development of the Duke Nukem Forever game. In the article, it talks about how George Broussard pretty much messed it up from beginning to end by promising things and never having an end goal. And I think that was the main problem of the game, that it never had an end goal. I think all Gearbox Software did was, when they attained the Duke Nukem 3D license, they said to themselves, okay, this is okay, this is about 95% finished, but it's just a mess. There's nothing really consistent about this whole thing, so we're gonna have to piece it together the best that we can and add somewhat of an ending, if we can call it an ending at that, and then ship it out. That's all we really did. Randy Pitchford was the only developer on the Duke Nukem Forever franchise that actually was with Gearbox. I don't know how many former members of 3D Realms migrated to Gearbox after Duke Nukem Forever got into the hands of Gearbox, but yeah, here I go cracking my knuckles again. I find it really hilarious that I'm able to do that in this game. Anyway, I don't know how many developers of original Duke Nukem for 3D were on the Gearbox software team other than Randy Pitchford when they took and finished Duke Nukem Forever. But I do seem to have remembered some developers of the original Duke Nukem 3D saying, "Wow, this is terrible. We should have done a better job than that." And it also talks about how success can absolutely ruin a franchise, believe it or not. Because it's not really how successful you are, it's what you do with it. It's what you do with success. And it's really a matter of consistency. If you are successful, you can easily say, okay, this works, let's continue and go along with it. You basically have to wipe the slate clean and try to do it again. See what made it look good and move everything that made it bad. That's all we really need to do in the sequel. George Broussard didn't really roll that way. He just said, we have all the money in the world, we have all the time in the world, we'll just put this in the back burner and add a lot of cool stuff to it. I already talked about how when he watched the thing, he wanted to put snow in Duke Nukem Forever. Those courses kind of crush you, by the way. I demonstrate it right here. But he also took a look at the Quake 2 engine, and I'm sure I'm not describing Daikatana right here. He took a look at the Quake 2 engine and said, "This is going to be our engine." See, this is how good 3D Realms is without Ken Silverman. If they hadn't invented the idea of polytypes, I bet this wouldn't happen. But they had to buy the license from id Software for about $400,000, and that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money back then. However, then they soon realized that it wasn't up to their expectations, which means that they didn't really take a look at the engine before they bought it. It was like, what? What did you... No? I mean, even I take a look at the Doom engine before I develop things. It's kind of a necessity. I need to know what it can handle and what it can't handle, and then I make maps for it. I know that Doom operates best in claustrophobic areas because if we try to develop entire cities outside, the game will crash due to visiplane overflow. See, those are the kind of things you learn when you have experience with the engine. They did not the 3D Realms did not have any experience with the engine, and it cost them quite a bit of money, as I might add. So, if you have an underdeveloped engine, then you obviously need to have a good design team in order to do the best that they could. Just like 3D Realms did with Shadow Warrior. Even though it ran an ancient engine at the time when Quake was popular, it was pretty looking. Some would say it was even prettier looking than Quake was. By the way, if you think I'm using no clip here, I'm not. The walls do not have clipping flags on them, so you can walk right through them like a ghost. Once again, unfinished. We're almost to the end of the playthrough, but I just wanted to conclude that you took a look at the history of Duke Nukem Forever. Just read the article on Wired, how success killed Duke Nukem, and it should bring into your mind how dangerous success can be at times, because it really can be. It can throw you off course. It can make you egotistical, and it can make you and it can end up being the downfall of the project itself, the project sequel, as we've already seen with Duke Nukem Forever. The future of Duke Nukem, I'm not really sure. But, I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much it for Duke Nukem. No one takes him seriously anymore, and even his novelty has worn off. I know that he was very good in the 90s, but that's because he was part of a very good game, in my opinion. But let me be the first to say that the reason that I like Duke Nukem is not because of the character, although they certainly did help, but because of the gameplay and the design and the looks of the game. The game as a whole was complete and well developed. And Duke Nukem was definitely helped by the game's overall design and looks and style. It was very well designed, and I can't stress enough how fun it is to play, regardless of whether or not Duke Nukem is a character. I mean, some of the stuff he says, I actually kind of laugh at, but if I were to turn Duke's sounds off, I wouldn't enjoy the game any less. Some people may have a different opinion, but I definitely do think that Duke Nukem has a very good, Duke Nukem 3D is a very good game, regardless of who's the protagonist. Now, here's an interesting feature of this game, that it never made into the final version of Duke Nukem 3D. These are floor mirrors. The reason it's all pink like that, although you can get a very vague description of the mirror itself, is because DOSBox can't really render them properly. I don't know if it's due to the fact that DOSBox can't really render floor mirrors, or because the game really does not. Maybe the game isn't really run with the code. The floor mirror isn't really coded right. I don't know if it's either that or DOSBox can't render them properly. But I have seen it render Shadow Warriors top and bottom room over room sectors just fine. So I don't know. I actually have seen it work. There have been some YouTube videos of floor mirrors working, but it definitely does not work here. I'm not here to. I'm not going to spend a good deal of my time trying to get the floor mirrors to work so I can demonstrate how they work, because in later sections of the, I think in later versions of build, they did put that back in there, but I don't know. I don't know why they took it out here. It seems to be a cool feature to put in there. Maybe it's because it took too much CPU power. And here we go again with the destructible environment. So you can just, like I said, they've been really willy-nilly with it. You can destroy entire buildings with just one shot. Kind of reminds me of Red Faction in a way, but still, it's really predefined. So I like to call them sub-destructible environments or pseudo-destructible environments. However, the feeling of destroying things is still pretty cool. This is why I enjoy doing it a lot. That was the second demo. The one where I had to run from a window, and the second where I had to run from building full of windows and get out of there as fast as you can. It doesn't have really much of an effect on you because you're invincible, but it's still pretty cool to do. Now, the reason that I threw that pipe bomb there is because when you go into a new room, a new level, and you have the pipe bomb equipped, he'll automatically throw it at the start of the level. I actually think that's a glitch because I don't know why I would want to throw a pipe bomb in the middle of the level. At the beginning of the level. We're pretty much at the end there, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy my commentary, and see you in Shrapnel City. I'll probably be doing some Let's Plays in the future, but right now I have to concentrate on getting the walkthrough out. See you later.